It was a crisp autumn morning in Brookridge, a quiet suburban neighborhood where kids rode bikes after school and neighbors waved at each other across neatly trimmed hedges. That illusion shattered on October 12th, when 7th grade teacher Karen Holbrook didn't show up for work. Concerned, her school called the police for a wellness check. Officers found the front door ajar. Inside, everything looked untouched, until they reached the bedroom. There, Karen's lifeless body was sprawled across her bed. Her wrists were bound. A thin line of blood traced down her cheek, and her eyes were open, frozen in terror. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. Nothing was taken. No signs of forced entry. Only Karen's carefully placed slippers, a cup of cold tea by her bedside, and a violent murder. Her murder stunned the town, but it was only the beginning. Karen Holbrook wasn't just a beloved teacher. She volunteered at the community library, hosted tutoring sessions in her spare time, and was known to leave handwritten birthday cards in her students' lockers. She had no enemies, no ex-partners in her life, and no apparent reason to be targeted. Detectives combed through her life, questioning co-workers, friends, and the tight-knit neighborhood. One thing was clear: someone had studied her. Someone knew she lived alone. Someone had been watching. Security cameras in the area revealed nothing, just a flicker of movement caught by a neighbor's doorbell cam at 1:18 a.m., too blurry to identify. A chilling possibility surfaced. The killer knew exactly how to avoid detection. At the crime scene, curious neighbors gathered behind yellow police tape. Among them stood a man, mid-40s, wiry frame, face partially obscured by a cap. He asked questions. He stayed late. When media crews arrived, he lingered in the background. One officer noticed him twice, once that day, and again at Karen's candlelight vigil a week later. Nobody recognized him. He introduced himself as Dale, claiming to be a distant friend of Karen's from college. Yet no record of him existed. Her friends didn't know him. Neither did her family. What nobody realized then, Dale wasn't just watching. He was reliving. Detectives began analyzing Karen's digital life. Her emails were clean, but her social media history revealed a concerning pattern. Over the past few months, a fake account under the name Will_Bright had liked every single photo she posted, sometimes within seconds. Will_Bright never commented, never posted, just watched. IP tracing led to a VPN. The trail went cold, until an unrelated search turned up the same alias commenting on true crime forums, specifically under cases involving female teachers. Someone was researching patterns. Someone who wanted to be close to fear, not far from it. And then came the break: fingerprints, hidden beneath Karen's bed frame. Forensics identified partial prints that weren't Karen's, but they didn't match anyone in the criminal database. Still, investigators now suspected the killer had hidden in her home before the attack. A shallow crawl space beneath her floorboards showed signs of recent movement. Scratches, a discarded energy bar wrapper, fibers from clothing. He hadn't broken in that night. He'd been inside for hours, possibly longer. This wasn't a random act. This was a man with patience and history. Police released a composite sketch based on descriptions from vigil attendees who had noticed Dale. It generated a tip from a local hardware store clerk. He buys duct tape, a lot, and he always pays cash. His real name was Sean Braxton. He lived just 3 blocks from Karen. He worked as a freelance handyman. No social media, no digital footprint, just a string of cash-based jobs and a spotless criminal record. Neighbors described him as quiet, polite, a bit off. A background check revealed that Sean had worked briefly in Karen's school over the summer, repairing classroom windows. He knew her schedule, her habits, her locks. Detectives brought him in for questioning. He denied ever knowing Karen personally, claimed to have maybe seen her around. But something in his answers didn't sit right. He knew too many details. While detectives built a circumstantial case, Sean Braxton did something chilling. On November 3rd, nearly a month after Karen's murder, he returned to the scene, again. This time, he entered through the back gate, stepped inside the now vacant house, and wandered through the empty rooms. He lingered in her bedroom. What he didn't know, police had installed motion-triggered cameras inside after forensic re-investigation. They caught him. Every step, every stare. He wasn't checking on anything. He was remembering. Sean was arrested. In his home, detectives found chilling trophies, a bracelet that belonged to Karen, torn pages from her school planner, photographs printed from her social media, a journal filled with obsessive entries about Kay. One entry read, They don't understand her like I do. She saw me that day. She smiled. That was enough. Another. I saw the blood. I still smell her hair. The horror deepened when investigators found old notebooks. Descriptions of other women. Locations. Times. Names. Was Karen the first, or the only? Cold case detectives revisited unsolved cases in surrounding towns. In 2017, a librarian named Mary Fielding was found strangled in her apartment. No suspects. In 2020, a nurse named Helen Vasquez was murdered. Also no leads. Both women lived alone. Both had maintenance requests fulfilled in the weeks before their deaths. Sean Braxton had worked in those areas. Quietly, invisibly, DNA evidence was resubmitted. And then, confirmation. His skin cells beneath Mary Fielding's fingernails. He hadn't just come back to the scene. He'd returned to his pattern. The courtroom was packed. Karen's family sat in the front row. Photos of her smiling, full of life, were displayed by the prosecution. Sean Braxton pleaded not guilty. His defense claimed mental illness and emotional delusion. But the evidence was overwhelming. The footage of him inside her home. The journal entries. The trophies. The other linked murders. Each witness testimony cracked his facade. Every survivor he had watched, every family devastated by his actions, united in silent justice. And then, during a recess, one detective leaned in and whispered to the lead prosecutor. He may not be done. There's one more name in that notebook. A new one. The notebook Sean Braxton kept was thick, pages yellowed and warped with time. Between the morbid sketches and chilling reflections, investigators found something terrifying. The name of a woman, recently added, circled twice. Jessica Mallory, a school counselor who worked just 20 minutes from Brookridge. A widow, lived alone. She'd recently filed a maintenance request with a third-party handyman app. Detectives rushed to contact her. She answered the door, confused and shaken. Yes, she had met a handyman. Yes, he seemed weirdly nice. She showed them his business card. It read, SB Home Repairs. With Jessica's cooperation, police set up surveillance outside her home. For 2 nights, nothing happened. Then, just past 2 a.m. on the third night, motion was detected in her backyard. A shadowy figure peered through the kitchen window. Officers pounced. But the figure ran. He vaulted fences, disappeared into the darkness. Left behind, a black bag containing gloves, zip ties, and duct tape. Inside the bag, they found a phone. It was locked, but its wallpaper, a candid photo of Jessica, taken from a distance. The man hadn't been stalking her for long. He was just getting started. Surveillance footage from nearby homes confirmed it. Sean Braxton had been watching Jessica Mallory. The DA amended charges. Jessica's testimony became part of the growing case. And still, Braxton remained eerily calm in custody. I just wanted to talk to her, he said during interrogation. I thought she might understand. But the journal told a different story. A chilling entry, written just days before his arrest. She has Karen's kindness. But more fire. I wonder if she screams louder. It was enough. Prosecutors sought life without parole. Sean Braxton had a timeline. 2015, a woman in Ohio found dead. Asphyxiation. No leads. 2016, Mary Fielding. 2017, Helen Vasquez. 2018, Karen Holbrook. 2019, Jessica Mallory, almost. Every 2 to 3 years. Every time, a woman who lived alone, worked in education or health. Every time, a maintenance man connection. He'd waited, watched, learned, and struck. And each time, he returned to the scene, to the vigil, to the home. Not because he forgot something, but because he wanted to remember. To understand Sean Braxton, psychologists dug into his past. A single child, homeschooled. His mother, reportedly overbearing and emotionally distant. His father, unknown. One caseworker found a foster record. Sean had spent 6 months in state care after his mother's mental health breakdown. During those months, his foster sister reported him sneaking into her room, watching her sleep. The family sent him back. No therapy, no intervention, only silence. Sean had an old laptop. Investigators cracked the password. Inside, a folder labeled souvenirs. It contained photos, diary scans, even short video clips, some secretly taken. Most horrifying of all, audio recordings. Karen's voice, reading aloud to her class. Helen humming as she cooked. These weren't recordings taken during attacks. These were taken before, moments of life, joy, humanity. Sean had preserved them. To relive, to own, to dominate in memory. The trial lasted 6 weeks. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty, on all counts. Murder, attempted kidnapping, stalking, burglary, possession of unlawful surveillance material. Sean Braxton showed no emotion, no apology. He simply looked up at the ceiling as the sentence was read. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the story didn't end there. After the trial, the families of Mary, Helen, and Karen held a joint press conference. They demanded nationwide reforms on vetting contract workers, increased surveillance laws, and support for stalking victims. Jessica Mallory spoke last. Her voice shook, but her words were powerful. He thought he was invisible. But we saw him, and now the world sees him too. Their strength became a movement, a call to action. In prison, Sean kept writing. He wasn't allowed devices, but he filled notebooks. One was intercepted. It contained names. New ones. Fictional or real. Investigators couldn't tell. But the obsession hadn't died. It had only been confined. And in confinement, it grew darker. Karen Holbrook was a teacher, a daughter, a light in her community. Her life was taken by someone who believed he knew her better than anyone else, who watched from the shadows, who returned to the scene of his own crime, not once, but twice. Because that's what obsession does. It doesn't fade. It festers. Let Karen's story remind us, vigilance saves lives. And evil often hides in plain sight. Experts were brought in to evaluate Braxton's behaviors, and what they uncovered was chilling. His pattern matched what criminologists call a spatial stalker, someone who moves within the physical space of his victim long before he acts. He didn't rely on digital breadcrumbs. He walked their streets. He tested their locks. He knew the sound of their footsteps. This type of stalker is rare and far more dangerous. His presence was so ordinary that it slipped under every radar, until it was too late. Karen's home remained unsold months after her murder. No one wanted to live in the house where such horror unfolded. But when a new investigative team rescanned the property, they discovered something previously missed, a hidden crawlspace beneath the stairs. Inside it, buried beneath dust and cobwebs, was a backpack. It contained photos of another woman, not Karen. Her name was Clarissa James. She had vanished in 2012. And Clarissa James had lived 90 miles from Brookridge. Her case had gone cold almost instantly. Her last known contact, a maintenance request to fix her heater. The work order listed a contractor, the name, illegible. But inside the backpack from Karen's crawlspace was a receipt. It was stained, torn, but one name was visible, Sean B. Had he killed before even Mary Fielding? Was Clarissa the first, or simply the first we now know about? Braxton's estranged cousin came forward after watching the trial. She described Sean as a haunted kid. Even as a child, she said, he watched everyone. He wouldn't blink. He would ask questions that didn't make sense, like how long it took someone to fall asleep, or whether a closet could lock from the inside. She remembered something else, too, a drawing he made at 10 years old. A girl tied to a chair, a man watching from a crack in the wall. She never forgot that image. Now the world wouldn't either. During internal reviews of the investigation, one troubling detail emerged. 2 months before Karen's murder, police received an anonymous tip about a man watching women near the school. They patrolled the area once but filed it as unsubstantiated. The tipster even gave a partial plate number. It matched Sean Braxton's van. The oversight was devastating. And the officer who dismissed it? He resigned in shame. Among Karen's belongings, her sister found a journal. In the final entry, written just a day before she died, Karen wrote, "There's someone I've seen outside twice now. He doesn't do anything, just stands there. Maybe it's my imagination. I'm probably being paranoid." It wasn't her imagination, and she wasn't paranoid. She was right. She just didn't know how right. In prison, Braxton's demeanor baffled guards. He was calm, polite, cooperative, but he also began to manipulate the system. He befriended a young guard, complimenting him daily, asked for books, asked about other women who ended up here. The requests were subtle, but calculated. He was still studying people, still evaluating responses, still playing his game, just in a different setting. As Braxton's digital trail was fully unearthed, forensic analysts found a hidden folder on a flash drive. It contained crude maps. Pins dropped on dozens of addresses. Many belonged to women. Several were dead. Others were alive, and horrified to learn they had been watched. Some had never even met him. It confirmed the worst fear. His fantasies extended far beyond his known victims. And he hadn't acted on all of them, yet. A major scandal erupted when a publisher was found negotiating a book deal with Braxton, wanting to tell his side of the story. Public outrage was swift. Karen's family called it exploitation. Victims' rights groups protested. Within 48 hours, the publisher backed out. The debate sparked a new law, the Victims' Dignity Act, banning convicted murderers from profiting from their crimes through media. Braxton would not get the last word. Karen Holbrook's grave now has a bench beside it. Students visit every year on the anniversary of her death, placing flowers, letters, poems. Her sister leads a foundation to support women being stalked. The families of Mary, Helen, and Clarissa found some solace in justice, but the whole remains. And for Jessica Mallory, life will never be the same. She sleeps with lights on, checks locks 3 times, but she's alive. And so are countless others, because Karen's story was finally heard. Jessica Mallory refused to let fear define her. Within months of the trial, she launched a national campaign called Seen and Safe, aimed at empowering women to recognize stalking behavior early and seek immediate protection. She traveled to high schools, colleges, and women's shelters, sharing her story, educating on digital privacy, and encouraging vigilance. Her face became a symbol, not of fear, but of resilience. She'd nearly become Braxton's next victim. Now, she was determined to ensure there wouldn't be another. FBI profilers revisited Braxton's early years and proposed a chilling theory. There were likely 5 more victims. Unsolved murders of women in similar circumstances between 2010 and 2014 matched the timeline, location pattern, and MO. All women lived alone. All had reported strange maintenance visits before their deaths. All lived within 150 miles of each other. Braxton never spoke about them, but in one confiscated journal, 5 names were scratched out, first names only. Their families, long without answers, now had new hope. One file, buried deep in Braxton's hard drive, stood out. It was labeled, "Not worth it." Inside were notes on several women, detailed routines, home layouts, security system brands. But none had been harmed. Why not? Some had dogs. Others had roommates or live-in relatives. One had written a viral blog post about self-defense. All had one thing in common. Something, anything, that made them slightly more difficult to isolate. Sometimes, that's all it takes. After the sentencing, a man appeared at the prison requesting to meet Braxton. He was denied. That man, David Linney, a maintenance supervisor who had briefly fostered Sean at age 9. "I didn't know what he'd become," David told reporters. "But I saw something broken, and I didn't do anything about it." His voice cracked. "I just wish someone had caught it when he was still a child." Before all of this, Braxton was placed in solitary confinement after he was caught trying to manipulate another inmate into gathering news articles for him. He wanted to know what the world was saying. Officials installed constant surveillance. He was stripped of writing privileges. No visitors. No pens. No paper. He had studied others all his life. Now, every breath he took was watched in return. Outside Karen Holbrook's former school, a memorial wall was erected. It bears the names of Karen, Mary, Helen, and Clarissa. Each tile is engraved with a quote from the women's journals, letters, or social media. Small windows into the people they were, not just how they died. The community visits regularly. Students now walk by every day and see more than stone. They see a promise. In 2025, after intense lobbying by survivors and families, Congress passed the Stalker Prevention and Early Intervention Act. It created a federal task force to track stalking behavior across state lines. It also mandated education on stalking and harassment prevention in all public schools. Karen's Law, they called it. Born from horror. Built for hope. True Crime Hub received thousands of letters, comments, and stories from viewers affected by stalking. Many thanked Karen's story for giving them the courage to report their own stalkers. Others asked for resources, support, or simply wanted to be heard. The ripple effect was undeniable. Storytelling wasn't just entertainment. It was life-saving. In a final twist, 6 months after sentencing, Sean Braxton wrote one letter to the FBI. It was vague. A map. Coordinates. A set of initials, LT. Agents followed the map to a wooded area near an abandoned farm. There, buried beneath a mound of stones, was human remains. A woman. Dental records identified her as Lauren Thomas, missing since 2011. The coldest case, now closed. Sean Braxton wanted control. He took lives, then returned to the places he left his mark, not out of guilt, but hunger. Obsession. Ownership. But the people he watched are no longer silent shadows. Their names are spoken. Their stories are told. And their strength has turned victims into movements. Never again will we say, we didn't know. Because now we do. And now we watch back. Thank you for watching True Crime Hub. Subscribe for more real stories, deeper truths, and the justice we demand together.